So we are joined by my man from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, DeJuan Poole. This is our final guest for this class of the school year, and we thank you so much for joining us today. I know we had some schedule issues. Finally, got you on here to talk about
Yep.
something in HR and hiring practices that has been so important to us. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School. This is our business law class, but we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools. Madison Central, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for taking some time for us and finally uh, talking to the lower half about this field that you've been in for quite some time.
Yes, sir. No doubt. Um, and it's a pleasure. Let me start off by saying it's a pleasure to be here to speak to all of you individuals about human resources and a little bit more about what we do and mainly about how I got into the field and, providing that feedback. So, open up that opportunity for others to kind of get into the human resources field and talk about some of the things that we look for as human resources when we're talking about applicants, the candidate pool, and how your presence as a candidate impacts what hiring managers and their decisions that they're going to make. So
Big time. Now, we obviously want to get deep into that because it's so important. But just give us a little background. You're originally from Baton Rouge, went to community college, but then graduated from UL Lafayette
yep.
there in Lafayette, Louisiana. So, talk about what brought you to UL Lafayette because we got a lot of large state institutions here in Mississippi as well. Big school, and you were a
Yep.
business major. So, talk about what drew you there and kind of how your program was getting that degree.
Sure. So I'll start off getting out of high school. Like most of us, by the time I got to 18, I just made a decision. I said, I've lived under my parents' roof for so long, and it was just time for me to go. Now we had a home, an institution closer to home for me, too. Actually, in Baton Rouge, Southern University, and LSU. And I also applied to Texas University of Texas and Tulane, but I'm sorry, not Tulane. It was Xavier. But the reality is the tuition for the private institution just wasn't in the it wasn't in the budget, and I would have had to come out. I would have had to come out of pocket for a good bit, and at that time, I wasn't ready to work full time to be able to. At that time, I think tuition was about maybe 40 grand a year, and tops something that Louisiana has. It only covered so much of their scholarship, so had to make a decision that out of state wasn't going to happen as much as I wanted to go to other institutions. So I applied for at UL as well, got accepted, and UL Lafayette was close to home, but it was enough. It was further away for me to kind of get out of the city of Baton Rouge, and that was one of the big factors for me to go to UL. So went to UL. I'll be transparent. Did a year, and by the second semester of my freshman year, I stopped going to class. So I was like, you know what? I'm tired of this. This is not working for me. I'm sure many of you all, whenever you all decide to go to college, you're gonna go through that phase where it's, do I really want to do this? And I hit it, and I said no. I'm out. I was looking up jobs in my dorm. What could I do without a college education that still pays well, and a lot of it involved manual labor. Air traffic controllers, that was another one. They get paid very well, but they work a lot of overtime. They're under a lot of stress. So I'll fast forward a little bit, skipping through that part of my life. Whenever I did a lot of kind of I don't want to say manual labor, but I did some odd jobs. I call it that, and an opportunity. I'm saying an opportunity. I was in an environment. I was talking with a couple of people, and I saw where they were. My dad, he worked in the plant, and one of his main goals was, he did not want me and my brothers to go through the plant outside at different hours of the day, weather, all those things, and he was really pushing to get that education. And so, not that it was a bad career, he just didn't want it for us. And went through that phase, and I said, well, you know what, let me go back to, I think I'm going to go back to college after about 2 years out. So went back, applied to UL, and the reason why I'm smiling because it's happened. There's a couple other people I talked to. This happened to them as well. Reapplied for UL, and I got this response that said, due to your current GPA, when you left, you are not eligible to re-enter or to re-enroll as a re-entry into UL. And that was a pretty big shock to me because at that moment, I'm 19, 20 years old. I'm like, what am I going to do with my life? I can't, my GPA isn't high enough to go back to university. I'm already living there, got an apartment, had to work two full-time jobs just to really kind of make ends meet. And I'm like, man, there's no other alternative. And I did a little bit more research and I discovered the community college in Lafayette. And so I said, well, you know what? You just look into this and see what happens. So I reapplied, or it's reapplied soon. So I applied to the community college, SLCC, got accepted, and I was able to transfer the first semester because obviously second semester was all F, so couldn't do nothing with that. So I was able to transfer my credits from that first semester over to the community college, and it saved me a semester of work. So fast forward through that, did 3 semesters at community college, graduated, went back to UL as a transfer student, not as a reentry, because my GPA was much higher leaving the community college. So went back to UL, did finished up there the last semester. Actually, the last year was pretty rough. I know there was one semester I was taking 21 hours, but that was because that's the only way I'll be able to graduate without going into the next semester only taking 1 or 2 classes. That financially that just didn't make sense. Uh, and so coming out of that, I got an offer with Waffle House. I was managing a pizza place at the time. Well, it was actually Pizza Hut, and the pay just really wasn't much, to be honest with you all. So there's just more to do that I wanted to do out of life, and so left Pizza Hut. Was contacted by a recruiter with Waffle House. Got started as a trainee once I graduated. After going through the training program, I found this interesting because it was the first time I've actually been on a plane because they flew us out to their headquarters in Georgia in order for us to complete the training. And I'm sitting there next to the company paid for it. I'm sitting next to a guy. Fortunately, it was a pilot. And if you haven't flown before, it's not what TV makes it seem. It is, imagine going on a roller coaster, and the whole thing is a roller coaster. On TV, it's just this smooth plane, nothing happening. When you actually get on a plane, it's a lot of shaking, there's bumps, and every time you hear turbulence, you're holding on to the seat like, oh, what's happening? So anyways, I found that pretty interesting, and I'm looking around, and people next to me, they're all sleeping, snoring. The guy next to me reading his book, doing whatever, and I'm over here like, is this the end? But anyways, so did the training with Waffle House. Now I was still in Lafayette at the time. Ended up getting my own store in Baton Rouge, and so I moved back to Baton Rouge to run that store. And just managing a 24-hour restaurant, I realized that wasn't for me. Quality of life, the money was there, but the quality of life wasn't. Every holiday, you're expected to work, and you're gonna work your normal shift. The shift wasn't bad; it was 7 to 2, but just whatever you have for your family, it just wasn't happening because you had to be in the restaurant. Excuse me. When I gotten over that part of managing a 24/7 restaurant, I was contacted or I was reached out to a recruiter from Zoe's Kitchen. Now they're no longer in place, or they actually rebranded to a different concept. But onboarded with them, hours were much better. They actually closed instead of Waffle House. So worked there, was a part of some organizational restructuring, left Zoe's. Zoe's went to actually from Zoe's, I went back to Waffle House in a different capacity and HR, kind of working more along the side of the recruiting, employee relations, and really delving into that. into that role. And the thing that I learned at Waffle House in my first time was I enjoyed cooking, and my background was in hospitality at the time because I worked at Raising Cane's. I did a little bit of work at Home Depot, but my background was in the hospitality sector, so I just kind of gravitated to that. But uh, realizing that I was kind of drawn to that, but I enjoyed helping people. And I realized that human resources was a way that you can help people without essentially getting your uniforms dirty and smelling like grease and food all the time whenever you're getting home. So went into that area with Waffle House. I was there for about 3 years, and an opportunity presented itself with another company called Waiter, and that opportunity gave me the skill set of being able to just kind of travel over an area. So I'm not sure if you all are familiar with Baton Rouge, but I had the greater Baton Rouge area. It included Zachary, Port Allen, Plaquemine. It's just probably it's equivalent to the Jackson metro area because Jackson
Yeah.
includes
Yeah, about the
Ridgeland.
same size. Yeah.
Yeah, about the same size. So I was able to had the ability to kind of do some field work with that, and that was pretty. I enjoyed that role, but the company went through some financial restructuring, and that role was eliminated. So I was laid off. So at that point, I'm having to do Uber. But the difference with your teacher is that I was doing Uber as a full time job, and he's having some fun on the weekends with it. So just getting through that time was a little challenging for sure, but the opportunity presented itself with the school board down in Ascension Parish, and I learned a tremendous amount more on human resources, learning more on the bureaucracy of it, how to seemingly be in the corporate structure of
Yeah.
companies, and that's a big deal. I know that's something we're going to get into a little later as well. Um, but getting through that again, about 3 years at the school board, and then this opportunity presented itself because I realized that I did not want to be. Education is not a bad field. I just know that in that moment, there's more that I wanted to do for me and my family. That this opportunity that I'm with now is going to give me that, and it's going to allow me to grow my skill sets in different areas. So I'll talk a little bit about that. So the team that I was on at the school board, we had about 14 members in our human resource department. Here in my current role, there's only two that's within this particular umbrella. So I'm having to do a lot more. And that's an opportunity for me to increase my skill set so that whenever 5 to 10 years comes down the line, I'm able to leverage that into potentially another opportunity or a potential raise or potential promotion. So everything that you're doing today, and we're going to get into this a little later, but you're doing for today for tomorrow.
There
So
you go.
don't it's not just about living in the moment. Yeah, you can do that, but remember the things that you're doing today have an impact. And that's something that sure you all are teenagers. And I know I went through that at 17, 18. I wasn't thinking about tomorrow. If I was, I guaranteed I would have went to class my second semester and just stopped. I would have continued going. I would have continued doing the work. But another thing that I learned and that you all are going to experience is that you're going to have adversity. Your adversity is not going to be any different than your classmate, your friend, your peers. The difference is you know your story. You know what you're going through. The person sitting next to you doesn't know, but they're facing their own battle. And I would run out of time if I went through all the battles that I went through from 18 until now at 32. But you wouldn't know it just by having this conversation. But remember, your adversity is just a part of your story. It does not define who you are. You define yourself through your adversity and overcoming it. But saying that life's going to happen to everybody. You can't allow that to be an excuse for why you don't continue to succeed because there are plenty of things that are happening every day that affects more people than you're aware of, and even yourself. But and I'll add this too. Whenever that adversity happens, it's okay to have a moment. You don't have to immediately get up, brush yourself off, or just pretend that it doesn't exist, because it does exist, and that's a part of life. But once you and there's actually a group of peers of mine, we call it, and I'm sure you all have probably heard it before, it's like the 24-hour rule. Bad things happen, something's going to happen. You got 24 hours to feel it, whether it's crying, you need to hug somebody, you need to talk to whoever your support system is. You got 24 hours to do that. Once those 24 hours are up, we need to have a plan now, because we can't allow ourselves to wallow, and now that snowball effect is going to affect tomorrow, and then the day after, and then the day after that. We've got to be able to overcome. And whenever you need that support, don't be afraid to reach out to that support and let them know that you're struggling. Because I'll be honest, if it wasn't for my support system, I wouldn't be here right now, and I don't have any issues with telling anybody about that, because that's a part of my story. So I know how much I needed when I went through those situations. So I'm not gonna. I really didn't want to bore you all with my intro with that, but just wanted to tell you guys a little bit about that.
Yeah. Now, one thing, and you hit on a couple of things I think are important because you talked about people trying to find the easy way and not building a resume. Now, you're somebody that has seen hundreds of applicants. You've seen hundreds of resumes, cover letters, the whole shooting match. And look,
Yep.
people know where I stand on this. There are systemic issues that have kept people out for
Yep.
decades. There's no arguing that. But also, I'm going to call BS on some things when people are hurting themselves when they could have done something better to make themselves stand out in an application process. Little things like spelling, spelling, spelling mistakes on a resume. Uh, Showing up late for an interview, not knowing about the position you're interviewing for, putting stuff on social media because it's getting looked at. No matter what field you're looking into, people are going to check. I actually had a restaurant person. One of my former students had applied for a job at a restaurant, and they did a social media check, saw that I knew her, and they asked me about her. Now, obviously, I gave her a great recommendation, but that just goes to show you they're always looking. So if you got a bunch of guns and a bunch of money and all this gangbanger stuff on your social media, it doesn't matter how qualified you are. They're probably not going to hire you. If everything you put on social media is political, no matter what end of the spectrum it's on, people don't want controversy. They want somebody that can come and get the job done and not piss people off, half of the people working there. So if you're putting everything political, you can believe what you want to believe, but people don't want that overt political outspokenness in a workplace. And I tell you one, I would not have believed if I had not seen it myself. When I was at LSU, a woman came in to apply for a job. I'm sorry, to interview for a job. She walked, I was at the front desk, and she said, "Hey, I'm here for the interview." And I said, "Oh, that's great. Who are you meeting with?" She looked me right in the face and said, "I don't know. Let me go to my car and check." So she got disqualified before she even got in the door. So, as somebody that has, had a huge part in putting people on staffs, what are some mistakes that you see that, you know, has nothing to do with things being set up against somebody? The mistake was 100% theirs on why they weren't hired.
Absolutely. And you brought up a great point, Greg, for sure. And let's dive into some of those. And we're not going to pretend that biases do not exist in the workforce. It's happened way in the past, it's happening now, and it's going to continue to happen. And where our roles are we doing, and this is one of the things that I'd work on myself. I don't look at those biases that exist. I look at controlling the controllables. And one
There you
thing
go.
for you all sitting in this class is, are you controlling the controllables? And Greg hit on a lot of those. When you submit your resume, first things first, have you read the job description? Do you know what it is that they're asking for you to do? That's got to be able to do that. Got to be able to read it. Because number one thing, and I'll be honest, I'm looking at jobs now for a role that we posted last week, and you can see in the resume, have they read the job description? And a lot of the times they're submitting jobs and nope, and we don't even get past the initial review because you have no experience that says that you can do this job. And I'll go a little bit more uh, into that. So, from the human resources perspective and what we're doing, we get a lot of our direction from the hiring manager. So we're screening the candidates for the people that you are going to be working with. And there's this misnomer, well, I call it a misnomer, that people say, well, human resources is bad. And a lot of times we become the fall guy. Essentially, we get the bad feedback, the bad reviews in society. But the reality is it's the managers who are telling us what they're wanting. So don't look at it as though,
Yeah.
oh, they just don't want to, human resources bad. Is that, hey, the hiring manager said they want 5 years of experience in this capacity, and if you have two, then it's not going to work. So that means you got to do your homework and look at the job description. Do you have the years of experience? If you don't, and you apply and you get an instant rejection, it's not because you can't do the job. It's that the experience matters as it relates to who the hiring manager wants to see. Let's go a little bit further into the resume itself. The technology is there, guys, for everybody to be able to. There's Grammarly. I'm a Chat GPT guy, so anytime there's something that I'm wanting to adjust in my resume, I do a manual edit, save it. Also, when you're saving it, make sure it's a Word file or a docx or it's a PDF. I edit it as a doc and I save it as a PDF. PDFs are much easier whenever you send it in an email. Whenever you're applying for jobs, it's easily to be read as a PDF. I don't know if you guys have experienced this before, but I know I have. I get emails in the docx and I'm on the road, so I pull it up on my phone and the format is terrible. Well, guess what? If it's a PDF, you can easily pull it up and read and scroll in the PDF. So my recommendation is, if you have it as a docx, Word file, Google Doc, whatever you guys using for it, save it as a PDF and then submit it using that. Use spell check. Have to use spell check. Make sure your resume is formatted and we're not misspelling common words that we should know how to spell. These things matter. Your resume is your first impression whenever you're applying for these jobs and you wanting this recruiter to say, hey, let me put D'Juan in front of this hiring manager. Let me call him. Let me schedule this initial conversation, because your resume is telling everything about you and your work history before they even get a chance to talk to you. So your resume is going to speak volumes. Let's get into another thing as we're talking about experiences and what impacts you have. Greg mentioned social media. Social media is there. We can't disqualify ourselves before we even get the opportunity. That means you have these pictures with whatever it is you having up there. If it's not something, and again, I'll admit, I was 17, I was 18, I was, anytime I had a bad thought about a teacher, my mom, the girl that I was dating, all these things, we just ran and put. At the time, it was MySpace. Y'all probably don't even remember MySpace, but yeah, MySpace. Bieber was way in the past, but that's not even that anymore. I don't know. That's way in the past. But anyways, I went to Facebook as well, typed my thoughts, and didn't even think about it. And there was one time, I think I was right around 20. I decided to look at old posts that I had from out like for 2011. I was like, you know what? This ain't work. So personally, I don't have a Facebook anymore. I just got rid of it. There's just too many, for me, too many negatives that come out of having a Facebook that I just don't have it. Instagram, don't have it. Snapchat, don't even be on it either. TikTok, same thing. Don't even be on it. And employers are not saying that you can't have it. Are you responsible with it? Because as an employee of the organization, you are a representative of what they're doing. I don't know if you guys remember the cosplay Coldplay, excuse me, Coldplay concert where the CEO and the chief people officer or the head of the HR are caught in this camera doing things that are inappropriate, and that's the impact of social media. Now, the human resources officer, she's out of a job, and the CEO, they're working on an exit strategy for him, and all because of a 20-second clip that went viral on social media that's now impacted both of their families, and now it's impacted their career. So just remember, the things that you're doing now have an impact, especially on social media, because that never goes away. That doesn't go away. And you all, I really want you all to understand that there's so much information out there on the internet that an employer can just Google your name, and your name pops up, your phone number, your address, along with any of your social medias. There's a guy that I know. He hasn't. And let me get to this too, as well as we're talking about contact information. Have a quality email address. My email address since I was in high school is my first name dot my last name at gmail.com. It's simple. It's You guys can see my name. That's it. Nothing with T killer, bang bang, 67. We got to be better, because we're wanting to set a standard for how we want to be perceived. That's it. That's the my recommendation. If you have an email that's like, sweetheart 2026, or Dave, and whatever it is, you know get I won't even say get rid of it. Just create a new email and let all of your professional communications go through that. Your first initial last name at Yahoo, or your first name dot your last name, or your first name and your last name at Gmail, whatever it is. Just create an account so that whenever you are putting this on your resume, you're presenting your best self. And one of the last things that really makes a big impact whenever we're looking at candidates, what is your network like? What is your some companies that I've been with, go through your friend list. Who are you associated with in your friend list? I have a LinkedIn, and it's beautiful because you can see your connections that you have on LinkedIn. So it's pretty easy to do that. But and you guys, you're on Facebook, and look, I'm not going to tell, and no employer is going to say, and this has been a really big point lately, in recent years, with a lot of employees are saying, well, I have First Amendment rights. I can say whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. And you know what? You are absolutely right. You have that right to say whatever you want, do whatever you want, all those things. Guess what? You just won't do it at that company. Plain and simple. Those are the rules for the company. If the company says do not post about X, Y, and Z on social media, and you do it, hey, guess what? You have your right to do that. But in our policy, it says don't do it. You did it anyway. We'll see you later. Your direct deposit is going to hit your bank account in 2 weeks. Service is done. So just remember that. Don't don't get caught up in, well, I have the right to do this. I can say whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. You're We got to be better than that. You got to know, when you're an employee or you're in the workforce, you got to be able to follow those policies and procedures. And then if you're mad about your manager, you go on this rant on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, everybody's going to see it. Your future employers are going to see it. And it's just a bad look. Those are easy ways. And everything I've talked about so far has nothing to do. We haven't even met you yet. We haven't even picked up the phone yet. And there's already this perception about where you are, just based off looking at your social media, your email, and just Google. So those things are very, very
Yeah.
impactful.
Now, and they're handing me some questions. Before I get to their questions, I do want to talk about once somebody gets in the door, there's a
Yeah.
lot of things that you may not think about that can disqualify you before you answer the first question. And then once you get in there, people don't want to hear you dogging your current employer. They don't want to hear you being negative. And then I had somebody say they're watching you pull in the parking lot on the security camera. If you're driving crazy, if you come in there with your pants hanging down and you're smelling like reefer, you're probably not going to get the job.
Absolutely. So just remember that once we've gotten past that initial conversation, and we've scheduled that interview, just remember that now they're actually getting a chance to see you. Wear something presentable, wear something professional, and understand the workplace. Know where you're going to work. I remember my first job, actually, just about every job I've been to in an interview, I've worn a coat, a button down shirt, and a tie. Now I'm old school, so that's kind of going away a little bit. But even in this role that I'm in now, I did the same thing: slacks, dress shoes, button down shirt, tie. The ladies that I'm working with, I believe there is one in your class. Wear something presentable. The professional dress covers, or if you do the pantsuit, do that as well. Know the environment though. Know where you're going to apply to, and understand what the attire is. One thing we can do: no tennis shoes, no t-shirts, no jeans. We can't present ourselves in that manner before we even answer a single question, because the hiring manager has already made a determination based off of that. Now, in the past, we've had a lot more in-person interviews, so you really didn't get an opportunity. Well, nowadays you're not really getting the opportunity to see how someone's um, able to present themselves, because we're doing a lot of initial conversations are going to be on Zoom, but plenty of candidates will eliminate themselves because you're coming in not dressed, prepared for the job that you're doing. You're coming in, you may be late. That's and let's hit on that a little bit as we're talking about being late, because you hit about coming into the parking lot. You're coming in, don't drive like it's Daytona, okay? Look, don't get me wrong. I get at least 2 tickets a year. I am that guy. My wife laughs with me all the time. Look, she knows we budgeted for it. It's always going to be a matter of when, not if. I know I had a ticket earlier this year and I had another one like a month later. It happened. But when I'm coming into the parking lot, I am not Daytona. There are people. There's going to be people walking. Are you going to be a liability to the organization that you're working with? Because guess what? You hit a, and this is something that I know at 17 I wasn't thinking about. You're flying in the parking lot, you hit a customer that's leaving, and you work there. Well, guess what? Now you've put the company at risk of having to settle and pay these employee bills. Excuse me, the bills for the medical care for this individual. Obviously, your job's going to be done. Don't even worry about clocking in for the rest of the day. You're toast. But that's all a part of your presentation. So be respectful, drive respectful, park inside the line. Don't be driving all over the parking lot and you're taking up 3 parking spots. Don't, what are we doing? That's what are we trying to do? Are we trying to get a job, or are we just there to be there? Don't do that, because these things are a part of your character, and it shows how you present yourself and how you take care of yourself, especially as you continue to progress through the workforce. So are you going to be perfect? Absolutely not. Are you going to answer all the questions the way you want? No. Even adults now doing interviews, like everyone's doing interview prep. No one's expecting that. Everything we're talking about right now relates to before we even answer that first question. So that hits on the appearance. That hits on, let's talk about being on time. If your interview is at 11:30, make sure, if you don't know where the address is, don't wait until 10 minutes before and say, "Hey, where am I supposed to be going?" No, as soon as you have that interview scheduled, confirm the time and the address of where you are going to be interviewing. A lot of times, as you continue to progress, the spot that you're going to interview may not be where you're going to work. So, where the work site is, your interview may be somewhere else. You need to make sure that's exactly what's happening, and communicate that. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to speak up. Ask those questions. That's how we're not rolling up at the interview on time. If your interview is at 11:30, show up at 11:15. The cameras are there. People are seeing how you get out of the car. I'll be honest, whenever I have my interviews, I wear a tie, excuse me, I wear my button-down shirt, and I may put on my tie whenever I'm getting out the car. And then I have on my jacket, I throw it on, I make sure. Here's another thing: bring a notepad, bring something to write down excuse me, your notes with. You're going to get a lot of information. Sometimes it may be something similar to a McDonald's, but or Raising Cane's. That's where one of my earlier jobs were, but it still shows that you are invested in the process. And if you build these habits now, you're able to take this with you as you progress through your careers. So if you're taking notes and they ask, or they're mentioning what your start time, what your schedule is going to be, what's the attire, what's the uniform. They may say, hey, here's a website you're going to have to go to do your onboarding. Here's a website you're going to have to go to order your uniforms. This is where you need to do X, Y, and Z. That's information. Look, I know my memory is terrible. So once I leave out the door, I'm in this euphoric moment of getting a job that I done forgot the first thing that we talked about. Well, guess what? If you have those notes ready, you'll be good to go, and you can always refer back to them after the conversation has ended. So as we're talking about things that about not eliminating yourself as a candidate before the questions start off, take care of your appearance. If you know you have an interview coming up, get your hair done, ladies, men, brush your hair. If that's something, if depending on your hairstyle, brush your hair if you have it like mine. Actually, I need a haircut, but get a line, be presentable, show that you are interested in the role and you didn't just roll out of bed and just throw on some clothes and show up. No wrinkled clothes, please, please. My
Yeah.
great grandparents were sticklers for that. No faded clothes either. No clothes with holes in them. Get all that taken care of because this is your real first impression, and that is what's I give you guys, and I open the floor back to you, Greg. I give you the comment that I've had the most so far in my career. They said, "Man, the way that you dress when you get out of the car and you walked in, I knew that you were serious." And a lot of the individuals now have kind of gotten away from the old fashioned coat, tie, button down. It's more casual. And that's society
Yeah.
now. It's
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
we're moving to a casual. But my old school mentality is what I call it. I'm still interview. I'm ironing my shirt. I'm ironing my slacks. I'm making sure my coat is ready to go. Got the tie ready. And then as soon as I get out the car, I'm presenting what I want them to see of me, that I'm here, I'm about my business, and let's get to it. So that's just a little
Yeah.
bit of
And I just
information.
wanted
Go
to
ahead.
make two quick points before I get to their questions. One, the one thing
Yes,
I'm a
sir.
stickler on, and tell this all the time, once they say, "Do you have any questions?" your answer is never, ever no. Under zero circumstances should your answer ever be no. And that goes back to having the notepad. Have some things prepared. It's not rocket science. You can Google, hey, what are some good questions to ask in an interview? You can say, what can I expect here from the first day? What type of qualifications are you looking for? What type of room for advancement is there? That's three off the top of my head I didn't even think about. So it's not
Yep.
hard to figure out. And the other thing is people coming in there acting too familiar. Nobody there is your bruh. Nobody there is sweetie. You got to be respectful. If I'm telling you, and I've seen it happen too. People come in there like you act like you're their buddy, you're not going to have the job. People are wanting, this is a big investment they have to make. You have to do your part to show you're worth the investment.
Absolutely. Totally agree. And that's where the interview prep really comes in at, Greg. So I'm glad you hit on that. You have somebody that's in your support system. You get the call for the interview, you get it scheduled, reach out to them, say, hey, look, I got an interview. Let's run through a few scenarios. Because typically somebody in your support circle has gone through the interview steps and gone through the interview process. And that's the time where you want to clear up, the way that, the way that Greg and I talk outside of this setting. It's a lot different, and you got to be able to switch and be able to have that conversation. Not saying, "Bruh," it. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, miss. This. Yes, Mister. That. Those are all easy things that we could take care of, and that's part of controlling the controllables. We Nobody there is our friend. That is strictly a business, and it's another thing. It doesn't matter if you know somebody there, because that's another thing. One thing that as teenagers we have to remember and we have to realize, is somebody willing to, if somebody is willing, because I've made a few referrals for some peers of mine as well. If somebody is willing to refer you to the job, that means they are putting their job, their reputation on the line. That means that's how they're feeding their families, that's how they're making sure their bills are paid. They are taking on that role and saying, I'm putting all of this on the line because this person that I referred to you is a quality candidate. And when you show up, and you're doing whatever it is that you want, you're talking however you want. Now you're putting the person who referred you, now their reputation is on the line with their manager, and it just creates so much dissension amongst that relationship. And I can tell you, when it happened to me, I had to talk to my friend because it was his sister that I referred. I was like, "Hey, man, what is this? I put my name on the line to help your sister get this role, and it just turns out. I mean, and all he could do was apologize. And you know, those are the things we have to be aware of whenever you get those referrals. That it's not friend versus friend. It is, I am here to do a job. I believe you can do this job, so I'm going to refer you because I know you, and you've got to be able to show that this referral was not in vain, that you're going to show up and do the job and present yourself as you should. So you don't, so when that referral comes up again, because the world is just bigger. And I know we're 17 and 18, but the world is just bigger than us in the moment. And that's extremely tough because I was there. It's all about us. It's all about whatever I'm doing. But I'm telling you right now, the world is bigger than just us right now being 17 and 18.
Yeah, love it. Well, I do have time for a couple questions. This first one is DeQuavian Black. He's in 10th grade, plays basketball, football, and is running in the North Half track meet tomorrow. But he
Awesome.
asked, when you were in high school, is this something you wanted to do, or is it something you found out you wanted to do later?
Oh, great question. So when I was in high school, two things I wanted to do. One was be a referee. I'm sorry, three things. One was be a referee. Two, I wanted to be a bus driver. Yeah, my family loved that. And three was I wanted to be a manager. My brother, my oldest brother, he was a manager at McDonald's, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever, just being able to be a manager. And that kind of led my initial path into business management. And once I got my own restaurant, I started running it. I realized that there are more opportunities out there than just what I thought. And that's one thing you all are going to experience as you continue to go through life. What you see right now, the world is bigger than that. You're going to have opportunities. You're going to say, hey, right now, I may want to be a teacher. I may want to be a doctor, a lawyer. I may want to do X, Y, and Z. And then 3 years later, you're like, oh, you know what? I really like working on computers. Let me use the knowledge that I have and let me go to trade school and get a certification in computer science and let me work on computers for a living. So to answer that question, Mr. Black, it was not something, HR was not something that I had on my mind initially coming out. It came up whenever I was at Waffle House, and I was like, I enjoy helping people. And what is the way that I can continue helping people and supporting organizations in the people strategy without having to cook for 7 hours at the time? So I was like, you know what? Let me dive into the human resources role. And it just kind of took off from there. And I am enjoying it because it's rewarding. And one thing you learn about people, excuse me, no day is the same. You never know what things are going to happen from day to day. So
Love it.
good question.
I got one more. This is Derek Mitchell. He's in 11th grade, member of our drum line here. And he asked, other than not going to class in college, what's one thing that you wish you could have changed from the past? Y'all let,
Ooh, good.
yeah.
All right, good. So, what is one thing that I could change outside of not going to class? So I have a philosophy on how I look at life. I don't live life with any regrets because I believe that the actions and the things that we do have shaped us into being the people that we are. One of the things, and this was a key turning point for me, and this is something that you all are really going to want to do, and it's communicate. My first semester, my English teacher, he had his syllabus, and he said if you missed, and in the syllabus it was if you missed a certain amount of days, and excuse me, because it's kind of tied to that, but I was still attending at this point, and there's a point to this at the end. He said if you missed a certain amount of days, your grade dropped. You dropped the whole letter grade. And at the time, I'm 18, whatever. I wasn't worried about that. So it came down to the end of the semester. My grade was a C, and you needed a C in order to get credit for your on your course catalog so you don't have to take the class again. But I had a C and I was like, I'm good. Well, the grades got submitted and it was a D. And I was like, whoa, what happened? So I emailed him, got his office hours, and I went by the class, or I talked to him after class actually. And I said, hey, Mr. Corey was his name. I said, hey, I got to see what happened. He said, hey, well, you missed too many days. And I said, well, I was sick. I had this going on. Life was a little crazy. And he said, I remember, and this has shaped me into who I am. And he said, well, did you email me? No, I didn't. And he said, well, you didn't tell me anything about what was going on. So I can't do anything for you in that moment. So the grade remained the same. And in that moment, as we talk about, and I actually had a meeting earlier with a couple of managers, and it was one of the things that we do in human resources is we help the managers hold people accountable. And one thing for you all at 17, 18, even younger than that, you can't be afraid to be held accountable. Don't be afraid. You've got to be able to hold yourself accountable because you will be held accountable at some point. Don't be afraid of it. It's going to happen. In that moment at 18, I was held accountable for one, not showing up, for two, not communicating. And that is something that you all are going to really want to take advantage of from somebody who's experienced it. Learn from me. Communicate. If you know that you're not, I'll use the resume, excuse me, I'll use the job interview. If you know in advance you're not going to make it, don't wait until 10 minutes. Tell the recruiter, hey, something just came up. And you don't have to go into the details unless you want to, but I don't. I say, hey, something personal just came up. I'm not going to be able to make. I'll schedule time tomorrow at 9:30. Guess what? If they say, hey, don't worry about it, it's filled, you didn't want to work there anyway. If they say, hey, you know what? Yeah, we could reschedule. What's a good time for you? One thing that I recommend, once you say that you're not going to be able to make this time, in that same communication, add an alternate time. Hey, tomorrow at 9:30 won't work, but I can do Wednesday. Today Monday, I can do Wednesday at noon. Is that better? That way you're taking additional steps and ownership of that. You're not just leaving it up to the recruiter to do more work, because that's another thing. Now you're already rescheduling, so that's already going to make their job a little harder. But are you leaving it on them, the recruiter, essentially, to now do additional rescheduling while they're also trying to fill 10 other jobs? And you know what? In that moment, if you're not helping them, you're going to fall by the wayside. But if you're saying you're taking that initiative, hey, this isn't going to work. How does Wednesday at 12 sound? Hey, you know what? Wednesday at 12 does work. We'll see you then. Because the recruiters, you're going to do this. Well, as you continue to grow and progress, things are going to happen. Your recruiter is going to reschedule. You're going to have to reschedule. There's a lot of things, a lot of moving pieces are going to happen. But the biggest thing is communication. One of the things that really burns me up is if a recruiter, because the expectation, and I know I'm going a little long here, but the expectation, because this is a two-way street, you all, just remember that they're interviewing you, you are interviewing them. If you've done your homework, you know the job is right, you've got this schedule, I block off time, 15 to 30 minutes, I'm preparing to have, I got notes. Like I tell you guys right here, I got notes. I always have notes. I'm always writing notes. So I got my notes ready. I know the questions. I know how I'm going to answer. I know I'm going to pivot from question to question. And if you can't be bothered to show up on time or at least communicate that you're not going to be on time, I'm not even worried about I'm not even going to worry about this job anymore because it's not the job for me. So remember that your time is just as valuable as their time. Don't let it be just because you're 15, 16, whatever age it is, or just because you really want the job. Don't sacrifice yourself and don't allow yourself to be disrespected just to say you have a job. If it's not work, that means it's not the right opportunity for you and a better one is going to come by. Excuse me. And there's been a few interviews that I've decline just because the company isn't it's just bad practice, bad business. So just remember that. So there's something that I've learned that for my undergrad that I've taken, I wouldn't say I do it differently, but I would definitely encourage you all to stay in communication, and you can practice that now. If you know that there's something's coming up, you're not going to be able to make an assignment with your teacher or whatever's going on, let them know in advance. As soon as you know you won't do it or it won't be done on time, that's the time you need to let them know. Don't wait until the day of, because now you're just another number, and it's just, oh well, here typical, can't, the time won't be turned in, and now the notification is the day of. Tell it happens. So
Yeah, and I've got a
communicate.
whole nother. And when we get done here, I'm going to tell them about a couple stories I have on that because you're absolutely right. But we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for joining us. But before we go, it's just so important because I've got a room full here of our female actually had to get pulled out, so I've got all young
Yeah.
men in here with me today.
Yeah.
And something that it can't be talked about enough is we need more young black men to be successful in corporate spaces. And look, you heard me say it. There was for a long time it wasn't available and it wasn't right, it wasn't fair, but everybody knows it's true. But we just seeing too many young black men were falling into the trap of incarceration, falling into the trap of homicide. And I hear kids tell me all the time they think it's lame to be smart. They're worried about what somebody else is saying, but then they want to have all these dreams and things. But you just said they're not controlling the controllables. So there's a lot of things they can do, and stuff may not be fair. It's not fair for me sometimes. That's everybody. But we need more and more of our young black men to be successful because it's needed for our economy, it's needed for our culture, it's needed for our communities, and they don't have to be just because their grandparents or parents didn't have the opportunity. They don't have to say it can't happen for them. So as they start making decisions on what they want to do, why do our young black men need to know that they are so needed to be successful in our communities?
Man, you hit a great point. And the reality is we are needed in this economy. We're needed in this society because one of the things you hit on is the culture. If it wasn't for the culture of Black individuals, society would not be where it is now. Because we bring a lot of hardworking tendencies, and this is throughout history.
Yeah,
We're hardworking, we're dependable. When things happen, we are showing up and we're providing the backbone to our families. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Greg, because when I was growing up, I was told, even by my own family, my brother actually, that I was lame for wanting to focus on academics. And there is nothing lame. And you guys are going to hear this. And if you're not, I'll say it. There's nothing lame about a hard working earned living. There's nothing lame about it. That is what is going to separate you excuse me, from a lot of individuals. You're waking up, you're putting in your hours, whether it's 6 to 3, 8 to 4, 9 to 5, 9 to 9. Because right here we have 12-hour shifts. There's nothing lame about that. There's nothing lame about not trying to be a statistic. Don't be a statistic, guys. I live in Baton Rouge. It's high, one of the higher murder rates in the country.
it's worse than Jackson.
It
Absolutely.
is worse than Jackson. And every day it is an 18, 19. It's a teenager doing things that just it just baffles the mind.
Yeah,
And I went to school in McKinley. I went to South Baton Rouge. It's, if you guys are unaware, it's in the hood. South
big
Baton
time.
Rouge is the hood. And I made a decision long ago that I was not going to be a statistic, excuse me. You guys have that very same opportunity to not be a statistic. There is a better life for you than whatever is in those streets. And I know it sounds cliche, but I'm living it. I'm telling you, there is a better life. You don't have to go out in the streets. You don't have to stay out, doing a club. Guys, you can have fun. No one's saying you can't have fun, but there's a better life out there. I'm able to take my family on vacations. We just bought a house all through this living and this education that I've had so far. And in the moment, 18, 19, yeah, you don't really think about that. You all we did, see myself, you want the quick money, the quick life. There's three things: quick, fast, excuse me, it's either gonna be good, quick, or forgot the third one. But the way that the phrase works is, if it's gonna be good, it won't be cheap, and it won't be fast. So it's a variation of those. And the message that I want to give you guys with that is this is an investment. This wasn't an overnight thing. You guys know a little bit about my story. It's like I said, 18, I'm 32 now, 14 years and working into developing to who I am now, and I'm not done. And you have that same opportunity. Life is going to hit you. Life's going to hit you hard. You got to overcome the adversity that is going to happen. It's going to happen. We're not going to pretend that it won't. You're going to have some life-changing event that's going to shape who you are as a man, for the men that's listening, as a man, whenever you go through your 20s, and you have an option on, are you going to fall or are you going to power through that adversity? And I'm telling you, you got to use the support system. You don't have to be who society tells you that you have to be. You can make your own story. And again, I'm living proof of that, that I'm making my own story and it's not done. You can do it. You can be successful without having to be in the streets. I tell you right now, the CEO of Lowe's, he's a black man. The guy who
Marvin
gave
Ellison.
me Marvin Ellison. That's one of the reasons why I enjoy it, because he was actually at Home Depot whenever I was working at Home Depot many years ago. And that's one of the reasons I've been following his journey, just because I want to see how just a role model that you can be successful in corporate America as a black man. And there are incentives to it and sticking with it that are way better. I can sleep peaceful at night knowing that my family has, I mean, they're taken care of. And I'm not looking over my shoulder in the streets wondering if this is a day somebody's gonna try to rub me out or whatever, you know. Guys, there's a better life. Don't be a statistic. You don't have to be. You don't have to be whatever society says you have to be. So you're good.
Love it. So I'm glad we had this. I mean, it's not always the funnest conversation, but it's so necessary. And I appreciate you finally getting on the schedule for us. But we'll definitely do this again. But my friend,
Yep.
D'Juan Poole, all the way from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Thank you so
Yes,
much for
sir.
joining us today.
Hey, thank you. Y'all take care. If you need anything, reach out. It's a pleasure.
All right. See you, buddy.